I wouldn't call myself a disciplined man. I would call myself somebody who, when I make a commitment, that's it, it's done. I'm going to get it done, even if it takes me 10 years longer than I thought it was going to.
Welcome to the Built to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth in life starts every single day with the mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth in life so you can give more all of it away to help MVPs and most vulnerable people. My name is Brett Swartz. I am excited to be a host today again. Grateful to be here and to be interviewing a guest who's going to help us unlock resistance for growth in our businesses and our leadership. He's the CEO of a company that you're going to be learning all about. It's called Advanced Business Abilities. Okay. And he helps business executives 2-3x their business with resistance removal, sales strategies, leadership development, and hiring unicorn staff. He's got a tremendous background, and I'm just really excited and honored to have him here. Mr. Mike Irving, welcome to the show. Mike, how are you doing?
Hey, Brett. Hey, thanks. That's a really kind introduction. I'm grateful to be here and really happy to have a chat. So thanks very much for having me.
Absolutely. For our listeners to get to know you for the first time, would you give us just a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Boston in the United States. And at the age of 21, I went to Australia. I was meant to be in Australia for being back and finish my degree in biology and go and get a job and be a normal human being. But that was never going to be the path for me. So I ended up finding a way to stay in Australia, got a job going door to door doing sales on commission only. And a lot of people think of that and think that it's like, that's the hardest form of sales in the world. And look, it might be, but it was a really good teaching for me because it taught me at the earliest piece that sales was a system. There was a system to follow. There were principles to it, and I could see those. And so I learned how to do that. 18 months later, incorporated my first company, and we at one point had 300 sales reps in the field across 3 cities of Australia, going door to door and business to business, commission only, until 2005, 2006, and that's when the seed of advanced business abilities was planted in my mind. So that's a bit of background.
That's fantastic. Let's dive right into the topic at hand, which is unlocking resistance for growth. So, Mike, what's the number one secret to do just that?
So if I tell a story, and it's actually my own story, so not talking about anybody else. In that first business that I ran, I had lots of success. I achieved lots. I generated lots of revenue at points in time. 300 sales reps in the field, you're going to have a lot of revenue happening and new clients or new customers for clients. And my experience of it was that over the 9 years of running that business, I had high highs and then I had the lowest of lows. I hit the wall. I got smashed. And for the first few times I hit the wall, I kind of got myself up and brushed myself off and decided that I would either go around it or over it or under it or through it. But in 2005, I hit the wall again and went, okay, hold on a second. This keeps happening. Like this, something's wrong. What's going on? I had hired business coaches and they were all good. They all had good information. And I found that what they were attempting to do with me was actually creating more stress than it was solving. And so I ended up very, very disillusioned until I met the people that I now refer to them as my research team. But they were a group of people, small group, 3 people who in 2006 really helped me to totally and utterly change my life. And what they did was they put my attention on the ways that I was actually creating my problems. And I think if I was going to summarize the answer to the question you've asked me, that's what I would say. It takes a lot of bravery, but to have a willingness to inspect the ways that you are creating your own issues. So it's kind of like, I didn't realize I was doing it at the time, but I was reaching down and grabbing the rug and just yanking it right out from underneath my own feet with my own internal resistance and ways of thinking and survival mechanisms that were causing me all sorts of problems.
Got it. Okay, that's really great. So it's basically, it sounds like the number one secret is understanding that you when you hit the wall, you're humble enough to go get outside additional coaching and expertise, and then really they gave you the awareness to put the attention on what you were doing to have this resistance or these challenges or these things that were hurting you. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah. Saying it a different way, it's the starting premise that is a very helpful point of view to take is you create your own reality. And so if that is true, and I recommend that it's a very valuable point of view to take, then what that means is that if there is a non-ideal condition in any part of your personal or professional life, the real source of the problem is going to be something about you. Now, it might be an attitude, it might be a competency issue, it might be a lack of understanding of a certain area, it might be a way that you react to certain conditions that show up in your life. But one way, shape, or form or another, the real source of the problem is going to be something about you. And taking that point of view is incredibly valuable because it involves you owning what's happening in your life. And from my experience, that's the only way that you can actually get to the bottom of it and really create a change.
Got it. Yep. So I think put another way, the biggest source of unhappiness is self-unhappiness, and then taking ownership of that. So what's secret number 2 when it comes to unlocking resistance for growth?
Cool. So secret number 2, I don't have these in any particular order. So secret number 2 is, in my opinion, working with somebody who understands what resistance is and how to identify it. And then more importantly, how to actually go about the process of removing it. You see, when we have resistance within our own thinking, we have that resistance totally and completely rationalized and justified. In our own minds, the way we think is right. It is the right way to approach the world. And so we can't see our own resistance. It involves an external, trusted source of information and preferably objective data to be able to go, well, hold on a second. This is what I'm seeing. Tell me about how that works. That would be, in my opinion, actually one of the most difficult parts, because that involves trusting somebody else to work you through that process and truly support you. Whereas, again, what I saw a lot of business coaches do was they were there to sell their package. They were there to sell their 50 ways to improve this and 100 ways to get better at that. And I didn't find that effective.
Okay, got it. So this one sounds like the second step is really working with someone who understands resistance and can identify it, and then really more so help practically guide and help you along the way to remove it. Is that a fair summary on that second part?
100%. So we have a process that we use to help people identify their resistance. It's a series of diagnostic assessments, and they're not like a personality test. So they're not a little DISC profile or Myers-Briggs. They will take the members of our community roughly 2 hours of their time to complete. So it's very, very thorough. They're going to respond to 320 different questions via multiple choice. And there's 5 different inbuilt honesty, bravery, reliability, and accuracy measures. And we then conduct a strategy session with them to support them to understand what the results share about them. And the end result of that strategy session is we want them to tell us what they want our help with to change or alter in their results. And 6 to 12 months later, they can take the diagnostics again, and we can actually measure what's changed.
Okay, this is fantastic. By the way, you can learn more about everything Mike Irving is doing by going to advancedbusinessabilities.com, advancedbusinessabilities.com. Maximizing yourself and your team's performance, measurable coaching, personalized for professionals, and really a way for you to scale up and grow. Because everybody, and when the leader gets better, everyone gets better, right? So it starts with you, the leader of the company, of the whatever it is that you're doing. And so this is a chance to get that. So I love that. I love that you have a process, you have a system, you can measure it, and it's it's not just a simple, 1, 2, 3 done. It's going to be a longer term, growth, working with folks. So, okay, excellent. What question haven't I asked you about this so far that you want to make sure you point out?
I suppose probably one of the questions is something that you just touched on, which is, how long is someone's engagement with us? Because, we're not come in and pay us some money and do these 3 things and off you go. The minimum engagement for someone, if they do that strategy session and then choose to become a member of our community, they're going to be involved with our community for at least 6 months. And the vast majority are involved for 2 to 4 years. And we have some people that have been involved with us for 10 years and they keep coming back, they keep staying. And that's not because we have a contract, right? Like, we have a structure where you get involved and then there's a monthly fee and you just stay for as long as you're getting value. If you are no longer getting value, we want you to leave. And so, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. That's really great. I love it. So 6 months kind of minimum, and then it can be as long as you keep growing in value. Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about sales process. Maybe make it practical, right? And just the importance of having that for your teams. I think, sometimes the pushback can be the sales professional might think it's putting them in a box, right? But just talk about the importance of just the fundamentals of basic blocking and tackling when it comes to having a sales process. What does that look like for your company when you're helping teams put that in place?
Sure. Very happy to. I think I've actually written a book called Sales Scripts Are Dead, and that will give a little insight into how I think about this. I am not a fan of having a cookie cutter script process for selling, because humans don't think that way. Humans don't work that way. I am a fan of making sure that you have a context for your sales team to work within. And that context will include principles, models, and a system that governs the sales process. And so when I talk about a context, what I'm referring to is, so this Yeti here, it's providing a context for the water that's in it so that the water doesn't just drop all over my desk, right? A context just means that there's a space, and hey, we can work within this space. And as long as we stay within these walls, we've got freedom to move as much as we want to within the context, right? So like I said earlier, when I was 21, that was when I first really saw that sales was a system and a process. It wasn't just personality. You're not just born with the gift of the gab and it makes you a natural salesperson. The best salespeople are ambiverts. They're not extroverts and they're not introverts. They're able to do both, and they can actually choose when to do either one. And so for me, sales, or the sales process, one of the models that I think is one of the most important models to think with in sales is the model of what are the steps that your prospect's mind is going to go through before they can make a buying decision. Now, a buying decision is commitment. So that's the final step, is commitment. You're aiming to help them get to there, if it's right for them. So if you want to land at commitment, it's necessary to know what happens prior to commitment. So prior to commitment, if you think of it this way, what do we make commitments about? We make commitments about taking action. So in order to get commitment, it's necessary to have clarity of intent for action. If we want to get to intent for action, what happens in their mind prior to that? Well, they're not going to get to there until they move through desire. We don't tend to make commitments to take actions unless those actions are aligned with our desire. So in order to get to desire, what happens before that? Well, we won't get to desire something until it has our interest. And we won't get to interest until it has our attention. So there's your system, 5 steps: attention, interest, desire, action, commitment. Now, what I see most salespeople do, and what I see a lot of companies teach their salespeople to do, is I'm sat talking with my prospect, and we're standing next to a river. Now, the win is on the other side of the river. So on the other side of the river is where we land, where we're both making commitments to take actions that are going to provide benefit to both parties, right? So what most salespeople do, or companies teach their salespeople to do, is you can only get across the river by stepping on the stepping stones. Those stepping stones are attention, interest, desire, action, commitment. The failure of most people in sales is they attempt to tell the prospect where those stepping stones are. And that's a massive, massive mistake, because you don't know where those stepping stones are. Only the prospect does. The term we use in the sales industry is, I've got a lead. Maybe they might buy. Let them lead. Stay out of the way and stop telling them all the awesome things about your product until you actually understand their pre-existing attention, interest, desire mechanism, because that's the reason they're talking with you. It's pre-existing, and your task is to uncover it. Once you've uncovered it and you've really understood it and why they're interested in it, you can then recommend a plan of action for them to take, so that you can determine whether or not they will make a commitment to take that action. Now you're on the other side of the river.
Okay, I love it. Mike Irving just broke it down. Some sales. What would I call it? I don't want to call it jujitsu. I want to call it an art and a science there. That was pretty awesome. You can go to advancedbusinessabilities.com, advancedbusinessabilities.com to learn more about Mike. That makes sense. Okay. Love that. And so use your team and help teams to train and build these types of things out. Is that part of what you do, Mike, as well?
Yeah, 100%. So the starting point for us is we work with the leadership of the business. So whether that be the business owner, the CEO, the managing director, if they're employed. And once they have an understanding of the approach we're taking and they've been through our program, we can then start to filter down through their leadership team and then the next level. And we can absolutely be involved in training their sales team. We're not for every business. So not everybody's going to want to be our client. We're very aware of that. And we like to make sure that the owner of the business, or the person at the head of the business, if they don't understand what we're doing, then it doesn't matter what we do with their team. We're going to hit a glass ceiling, and we're not willing to do that. So we will always start with the top. And once they understand the depth behind the principles that we're teaching, then hey, it's all guns blaring. Let's go.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love it. What haven't we covered so far that we want to make sure we cover before we go to the lightning round? Because you covered a lot, man. You've done great. It's been almost 18 minutes right now. We've covered a ton. So you tell me, Mike, what question haven't I asked that I should ask?
Well, I mean, I guess my question is there anything else that you want to ask that's going to be valuable to your audience listening?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think maybe just a story. Give us like a story. You mentioned, they take the assessment, they go through the coaching, they come back a year later. Like what's the biggest surprise that people, maybe the aha moments for that business leader, that sales team, when they've had the 6 to 12 months with you guys and they're reassessing that next time? I'm kind of curious on that.
Yeah, that's actually an awesome question. In the book that I mentioned, which is called Sales Scripts Are Dead, and if any of your listeners would like a copy, we are selling it online right now. But if anybody would like a copy, if they email me, I'll happily provide them a copy free of charge. It's a digital copy, so we'll just email it to you. In that book, we've got an awesome case study, and it's one of many, but it's a case study of a woman named Alessia. And we actually go through the detail of what her diagnostic tool results looked like before. So when she first completed the assessments, and then she spent nearly 18 months in a program with us, and then she took the assessments again, and we got to measure what happened. And one of the most awesome moments was the moment when I got together with her and we sat with her results side by side before and after. And I shared with her what had changed, and she burst into tears and gave me a big hug and basically said, I knew I was different, but geez, is that awesome to see. I'm so happy. And I was so proud of her. Like, she taught me a lot, because if you'd asked me whether or not we could have helped someone change the way she did, I would have said yes. And I would have said the only way we can do that is if we're spending lots of one-on-one time with that person. And she proved me wrong, because she didn't spend any one-on-one time with us. She was just involved in our workshops. She watched lots of recordings of trainings and videos and fly on the wall coaching sessions that we provide for our clients. So she was watching me coach people live in real time. She was just observing, right? The change in her was phenomenal. And the next time I saw her husband, he gave me a big hug and said, "Mate, thanks. I've got my wife back. I'm so excited."
What was the one biggest thing that she changed? What was her, if you had to say one big domino, which one was it?
Her attitude. Yeah, her attitude. So the way to look at our diagnostic tool is, it's kind of like looking at a person through the analogy of a helicopter. So in this analogy, you as the person are the pilot of your own private helicopter. As a pilot, you're going to have had an amount of training that you've been through, and you will also have strengths, weaknesses, and blind spots. You'll have aptitudes or lack of aptitudes, right? We want to identify what those are. But we also want to look at whether or not your helicopter is operating within its design tolerances. So how does a helicopter work? It's a very simple analogy, but there's a big rotor at the top of the chopper, and that big rotor provides lift and handles steering. So it's kind of like it sits on a gimbal. Now, that big rotor in humans, it's representative of general competency traits. And there are 7 traits that our research has shown are important for general competency. So we're talking about things like focus, motivation, communication, self-confidence, right? Now, those 7 traits have a tolerance that we want them to be within, or in that case, above. Now, if your competency traits are all above tolerance, well, that means that rotor is working exactly the way that you were trained that it will. It's going to provide lift, you'll be able to steer, you'll fly from A to B, and you'll use the right amount of fuel. But if those competency traits are out of tolerance, if they're too low, we're starting to have problems now. We might not be able to provide enough lift. We might struggle to steer. We might fly from A to B, but we might use twice the amount of fuel that we thought we were going to. And in a worst case scenario, we might not get enough lift and we're going to crash. So that gives us a view of whether or not the helicopter wants some maintenance. There's a small rotor at the back of the chopper. So when that big rotor spins, the whole machine wants to spin with it on that axis. The small rotor stabilizes the helicopter. It provides anti-torque. And what that produces is stability and balance in flight. So that small rotor is representative of attitude and integrity in a human. And there are 5 traits that make up attitude. And again, there's a tolerance. If your traits are all within tolerance, as a pilot, you're going to have an easy time flying the machine. But the more out of tolerance those traits are, the more difficulty you're going to have, the more problems you're going to create, the more you're going to be reacting to what goes wrong.
Incredible. Mr. Mike Irving, you just broke that down, and I love it. I love the helicopter. It really helps to solidify what you're saying there. And thank you for sharing that. That was fantastic. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Go for it, man. Put the pressure on.
Knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
Breathe. Know that you're not going to get everything done in the time frame that you think you will. So breathe, enjoy the moment, relax, and don't put pressure on yourself. It doesn't help. Set objective targets and go out and achieve them.
Excellent. Love it. Question number 2, number 1 book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Ooh, that's a good one. There's a split between 2 different books. One book is called Humans Are Underrated, and that's by a guy named Jeff Colvin. That's a fantastic book. And the other book would be Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Excellent. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. I'll check both of those out. Next question. What are you most curious about right now? I'm most curious about boating the coast of Newfoundland because I've just bought a boat and I'm living on a boat during the summer months of Canada. So I'm most curious about that personally. And professionally, I'm most curious about the people that we work with, because everybody that comes to us is unique. They all have their own unique set of ideas and ways of looking at the world. And they come to us because they're looking for something to change. And our task is to work out as custom a process as they want to help them to get to where they want to get to. And I've been fascinated by that for years and years, and 20 years now. Excellent. Number one way you're using ChatGPT or any other kind of AI?
Yep. So I use it. I don't use it as Google, so I'll say that. So we're starting to develop prompting abilities, and my next task is to actually create agents. And so I've found chat to be very valuable to help with documenting even greater detail about your ideal client persona, your different avatars. That's all been valuable, but the next thing now is to start to use it, create agents, and get automation happening.
Fantastic. Number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
You create your own reality.
Excellent. Next question. How do you best stay ultra disciplined and super healthy?
So we have a process that I call management by agreement. And fundamentally, that is a process that, to begin with, is about you leading yourself. One of our main programs is called The Foundations of Successful Self-Leadership. And management by agreement is the process with which you manage yourself by making commitments to get things done, and then going and getting those things done, and then making sure you acknowledge yourself for having gotten those things done. So I very much practice what we teach. I'm a student of the service that we deliver as much as I am also the owner of the business, right? And so I wouldn't call myself a disciplined man. I would call myself somebody who, when I make a commitment, that's it, it's done. I'm going to get it done, even if it takes me 10 years longer than I thought it was going to.
Excellent. Love it. This is the final question. Mike, after all your success helping all the people you've helped, how do you best keep a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership? And what's like a cause you really believe in to give back?
So I think, first of all, that thing I just said a moment ago about being a student as much as I am a teacher, I still consider myself to be a student of what we teach, and I learn from every single member of our community. That's a massive benefit that I get, and that keeps me very grounded. I would never say or want to say that I'm an expert or a guru, not because I'm self-deprecating, but because, hey, I don't profess to know it all. I'm still very much learning. And so for me, I made a commitment to the people that I call my research team that what I learned from them, if they were willing to mentor me, that I would make sure what I learned doesn't go to the grave with them and doesn't go to the grave with me. And so my aim now, my objective now over the next 20 years is to make sure that we train a whole bunch of people that are a lot younger than I am to be able to think with our processes and systems and principles, so that in 20, 30 years, 40 years, hopefully I live that long, when I'm gone, this thing continues to work.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Mike Irving, I want to thank you on the show. You just absolutely crushed it and gave us so much wisdom in just 29 minutes, 14 seconds. It's been phenomenal having you on. Thank you for helping us to unlock resistance for growth, right? And you demonstrated that, and you've shown that, and you're helping others do the same. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn or Insta or Facebook, and if you go to our website advancedbusinessabilities.com, and if you feel that we might be a fit, then we would welcome you to talk to us, and we'll see whether or not we can help.
Amazing. Thank you, Mike Irving. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another Build It to Billions podcast and Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. Yes, we're streaming on both of them and YouTube channels. We're on this journey with you to scale from millions to billions so we can get more all the way to help MVPs. My name is Brett Swartz. I want to encourage you to take massive action today. Look at and find Mike, to learn from and be able to hire him and his team to help you unlock more growth. And thank you so much for listening. And we will talk to everyone again real soon. Bye now.